Last time on Hakai, we jumped back to Universe 7 to find Frieza's planning his revenge on not only our heroes, but the gods as well. After he rebooted Cooler, he headed off to find the 5 primordial beasts, which when merged together will become a former fallen deity that not even the Destroyers can match up against. Before we rejoin Goku's training with Vados later in this video, we venture to the Makai World where the Frost Demons hope to fetch Janemba. But with the villains meeting resistance at the hands of Garlic Jr's men, are these merely the henchmen we already know, or have their stories also been rewritten?
This is part 4 of Dragon Ball Hakai, full color edition. Catch up fully with parts 1 to 3 and the history of your special Mondo.
After gazing upon Janemba's cocoon, Frieza chortles, well, there's my next subordinate, taking special interest in the fact that he appears to be too dangerous to even roam free, which is good to know. Nikki blurts out that he must be stupid if he thinks he can use Janemba like a soldier. He has no idea what he's thinking. This beast has utterly colossal power and can't be controlled by anyone. Though the Emperor knows all too well what that's like. Not long ago, he dealt with a drooling ape of the same variety. Luckily, he too now knows an effective method of handling this kind of power. Sancho interjects that he doesn't know what he refers to, but there's no way it compares to Janemba. But as Frieza as ever, our favorite Wrongin quips that their ignorance is no concern of his. He bequesters Cooler special forces if they think they can handle this lot. With a quick read of their power, Salza scoffs it's a paltry 20,000 units. They won't even need a battle tactic for this one, before ordering his men to attack.
What? How is this?
Huh?
Insides.
As the demons turn the table on Cooler soldiers, Salza's bewildered how they're able to do such things with the power the Scouter registered. Checking it again, his foe's current reading is over 150 million. Who cackles that it looks like he miscalculated a few things. Cooler glares over to his brother to grunt if his servants gave his men broken technology. But on the contrary, these trackers are the most advanced in his army today, capable of detecting vastly higher power levels than previous models. The problem is they were simply containing their energy, and so their devices didn't detect their real power. Which is information Cooler believes would have been very useful to his squadron. Would it not be? Though having a reason for everything, the Emperor simply wanted to see how they'd react if they were surprised by a sudden change in power. Nikki again can help but laugh at the idea that they initially thought these weaklings were Celestial Guardians. Intervening at last, Cooler steps in to spare his men of any casualty. Though he asked to demean that it was quite depressing to see his soldiers humiliated like this. Blaming Salza in particular, he was reckless to detect a low fighting power and attack without strategy. He apologizes to his leader. He also apologizes for his need for intervention. After a short silence, he tells them that it's fine. Even if they had used every strategy they had, they would have never beaten these 3. In fact, maybe not even one of them. The discrepancy between the power of these demons and their own is outstanding. This is an issue for only Cooler himself to resolve. Now directing his words towards his opponents, he scowls that they have exposed his soldiers to ridicule and embarrassment. But to their misfortune, this group bears Cooler's name, and no one shames his name and lives. They must now prepare to be slaughtered by the great Cooler! The reading of his commander. His power is at 200, no, 600 billion, and it just keeps rising. He implores Salza to pay close attention to his power level throughout this battle. He wants to see if his device can measure it. Of course, in compliance. This is all insane. He never imagined that Cooler's armored squadron had fallen this far behind. Cooler informs he could unleash more power, but this should be enough for this fight. Speaking amongst each other, the demons know how his power is comparable to even the gods of the celestial world. That's quite impressive. This is certainly no ordinary mortal. Sancho thinks they might want to alert the boss now. And idea that Nikki is fiercely against. He shouts for him not to get desperate. Just imagine the shame they would be in front of the Guardians if they called him the chief to deal with mere mortals. If they can't handle this, they will never be promoted to true Celestial Guardians. They'll show these arrogant punks what they're really in for. So this means these three were actually appointed by the Celestial Guardians to guard Janemba, and are training to be Guardians themselves. The scouter ringing out. Salsa comments how these guys seem to have the same ability to store their power away. Just like Coolers. Their levels are now growing rapidly. Cooler himself turns back to question just how much stronger they've gotten. Either still unable to sense ki himself, or simply seeking a confirmation of what he already believes. His Unreal informs that individually, they're all still a bit weaker than him, but together they're going to be very dangerous. Which sounds good to the Frost Demon. He was hoping for a good exercise today. But a good exercise! They'll show this insolent mortal!
Cretin! How are you so fast? I won't let you get away! Super Demon Fist!
Good Cooler! Look out! With only one hand, Cooler's able to stop Sancho dead in his tracks. He chuckles. Super Demon Fist. He really should have chosen a more fitting name. Feeble Worm Fist would suit it a lot better. Regardless, now that both of Cooler's hands are occupied.
Now, Nikki! I'll tear you into pieces!
The old Frieza! Please help him! Unfortunately for his foes, Cooler has plenty of techniques he doesn't need his arms for. He smirks that the three of them still don't understand. There's no point in struggling any further, so they'd be best to simply let him go this instant. As the villain likely puts an end to Sancho, and definitely puts an end to Ginger, Nikki shouts out for his fallen comrades, still clinging to life himself. To be frank, Cooler thought they would be a lot more of a challenge. It would have been nice to test the extent of his new powers. While disappointing, at least it was good to experience real combat again after so many decades. Salsa's in disbelief. Cooler's power wasn't that far above the demon's individual powers. Fighting as a group, this should have been a much bigger challenge, but it was a massacre. Frieza explains that Cooler began to control his powers so precisely that during combat, he changed it several times to attack or defend against these three. The alteration was so fast, his tracker couldn't even detect it even though it's a top-of-the-line model. Seems like Frieza decided to borrow some ideas from his favorite Defenders of Earth. This must be one of the things that he taught Cooler during their month of training. Although, Frieza worries that Cooler's ki control is almost as refined as his own. The fact that he's come so far in much less time than it took himself means he'll have to watch his brother's progress even closer than he thought. Slumped over, the defeated Nikki curses his adversary. He questions if he really thinks this is over. Even though they may only be apprentices, they are still Celestial Guardians, and they will not fall so easily. Cooler mocks to know what he's babbling on about. He's already lost. His two useless friends are dead, and he can't do anything with that wound in his chest.
Just watch me! Power is skyrocketing!
Android 13 and his comrades. Nikki bellows out with the absorption of Sancho and Ginger. He is now the most powerful demon in existence, demanding this filthy mortal prepare himself. Even the Frost Demons think this may be a bit of a problem.
best to get this over with. Once!
Salza calls out to Frieza that if this keeps up, Cooler will die, again pleading that he helps him. Who tells him not to be stupid. If his brother is unable to defeat an insect like this, he has no place commanding the Frieza force. By extension, he has no further value to him. Hitting Cooler on the ropes. The Frost Demon chokes out that he's never in his life been hit so hard.
Time to die! You disgusting demon! You will pay for this!
As he again begins to power up, Salza wonders if it's possible that this is the ultimate form of his commander. Heck, he didn't even believe the rumors were true. Thinking to himself, Frieza comments that unlike himself and their father, who had ways of containing their power so they could control themselves, Cooler was able to maintain his original form and control it without flaw. This is actually what haunts him most about his brother. From birth, he was gifted with potential far beyond his own. While this form has on occasion caused him to lie awake at night, he must confess that it is somewhat warming to see it again after so long.
I didn't think I would get the pleasure of showing you this form.
Real honor to be killed by this version of me.
Shut up! Impossible!
Your powers cannot be compared to mine. And I'm not even at my full capacity yet. You never had a chance in this fight.
And I told you to shut up! Caught it!
You are a very irritating foe. I'm tired of you!
Cooler! Don't do it! An explosion vibrates the entire palace. Frieza is seen with an outreached arm. Salza thanks him for finally stepping in to help. But Frieza is furious. He demands to know what Cooler was thinking. Does he want to destroy this entire place? If he himself hadn't stepped in to contain that explosion, he would have killed his own men. Even worse, he would have likely vaporized Janemba. Removing his mask, Cooler admits he's right. He may have gotten a bit carried away. Though in the end, everything turned out fine. Rushing over to the cocoon. It doesn't appear that it's taken any damage. In that case, he then wonders aloud if they should awaken him. But did he not ask that Zuno guy what to do upon finding this beast? Alas, no. He was hoping to ask one of those pitiful souls he so haplessly killed. So the other Frost Demon figures, whatever. They can just go back to him and make him tell them. An idea that Frieza sees right through. Even despite all his years of imprisonment, Cooler still hasn't lost his wit. He should have already expected that waking up Janemba wouldn't be easy, so he purposely eliminated those guardians with the intention of suggesting that they go to Zuno so he could meet him. He should have known he too would seek out such a being who contains all the knowledge of the universe. Though all of this is no matter. As long as he keeps his brother under surveillance, there isn't much he can do with whatever information he obtains. With a smile, that sounds just fine to Frieza, ushering them all to leave. After that, they return to the ship along with Janemba's cocoon, and then set off on another journey, this time towards Zuno's palace. Meanwhile, on the planet of destruction in Universe 6. Getting knocked to the ground, Goku sighs that even though he's a god of destruction now, there's still a huge gap in their powers. Vados is a really tough lady in a fight, who implores her student to mind his attitude. This sparring session is nothing personal. He must think on the bright side. At least he's managed to advance a lot in the realm of his powers as a destroyer in the last month. And he is happy that much is true. At first, he could barely control his body, and his power was all out of whack. He could barely retaliate without causing terrible destruction or even hurting himself. Not that he's perfect now, but at least he can fight without destroying everything around him and losing control. Vados descends, that's not quite the case. It is true that he's already controlling his powers better, but there's still a big limit on how much he can release in battle. If he exceeds this in any way, his power can still get out of control and cause great catastrophes in the universe. Who takes note of her advice and promises to keep trying his best. Happy with this response, the angel calls for a break from the training for now. Sometimes, resting can do good for one's progress. As he's already able to minimally control his powers, how about they go on a little stroll to get to know the universe? Is there any specific place he wants to see? Now that she mentions it, there are actually a few things he wants to do. Fighting with Hyperbolic is definitely at the top of the list. Then there's a planet of the SAIYANS he's curious about, and maybe even checking out the Earth here. However, Vados doesn't know that facing Hyperbolic is such a good idea. First reason being that now that he's greatly increased his power, it may be a disappointing challenge. Second, there's still the chance that the battle will get out of hand and the universe will be crippled by his new strength, although visiting Sadala might be a better option. Not exactly what he wanted to hear, but he figures it wouldn't be too much fun fighting Hyperbolic if he can't use his full strength anyway. In that case, he'll take her up on her advice and go to Sadala. After all, the Earth here probably isn't too much different than the one he already knows. So it's settled. Tonight he'll rest, and tomorrow they leave for Sadala. The next day, the pair arrived. Checking out a city from afar, Goku is amazed at all the castles and architecture. He had no idea the SAIYANS here were so developed. But it wasn't always like this. Sadala has undergone many conflicts. In the last millennium, though, it has developed a lot. Today, it's one of the most civilized planets of Universe 6, or depending on who you ask, even the most important one. But the most important one? Why is that? And there are a few reasons. The main one is that the SAIYANS are probably the greatest force of order in this universe. Among all of those who provide security and policing services here, the SAIYANS are the most impactful. In Universe 7, they have something called the Galactic Patrol. This universe's version of that is Sadala's SAIYANS. Goku actually remembers Kaba saying something like this. All the SAIYANS here are heroes. Speaking of whom, a trio of which appear to lock on to our hero. He wonders what's up with them. Vados explains that since they're very close to the royal castle, they're currently in a forbidden area. Flying over to stop them, one of the soldiers barks to know who they are. Do they not know the zone is off limits? Our hero tries to inform him that they don't want any problems. He just wanted to come here to see Kaba, Gale, and Caulifla. But what does he want with their captain? And what's his relation to these two bandits? Bandits? What's he talking about? They're not bad guys. As a familiar voice shouts for the guards to stop. Bowing in the presence of his captain, the soldier goes to explain. When he's interrupted by Kaba, he tells the group that these are his friends. They can all rest easy and return to their posts. He'll deal with them. As his underlings do so, he happily greets the pair before asking where Champa and Vegeta are, which prompts Goku to blurt out that he forgot that Kaba doesn't know anything yet. It's a long story, but in short, it seems that Mr. Champa wasn't doing a very good job as a god. So now he's been chosen by Zenny to be the newest god of destruction of this universe, causing Kaba to have a proper reaction. Scratching his head, Goku's confused by his demeanor. Why is he so shocked? Stuttering, Kaba asks Lord Goku to please not tell him he's come here to destroy Sadala. But nah, they're cool. He just wanted to come see them and get to know the planet a little better. Naturally, this is a big relief. In that case, he would very much so like to introduce him to their king. He's sure His Highness would love to know that an actual god is visiting them. What does he think? And that sounds awesome to Goku. Afterwards, Kaba took Goku and Vados to Sadala's royal castle. Noticing all of the respect that Kaba's mere presence commands, Goku mentions as much to the Saiyan. In fact, none of the soldiers are even reacting to him or Vados. Now that he's captain of Sadala's elite, Kaba is considered the #1 warrior of the king's army. No one in the entire army has more authority than he does, besides the king himself, of course. Simply replying, that's pretty neat, our hero then inquires about Caulifla and Gale. Aren't they part of the army too? In a hushed tone, Kaba requests that Goku not mention their names while he's here. It's a very touchy subject that he'll explain later. A little confused, Goku goes along with it as to not cause a fuss. As they make their way through the castle, Kaba explains that the area ahead is the throne room. They'll wait here while he approaches the king to announce him. From a distance, he explains to His Majesty that there are two very important visitors that would like to meet him. Their names are Vados and Goku, the angel and god of destruction of this universe. But God of Destruction Goku, didn't he before say that the destroyer's name was Champa? Which was the case, but it appears that Lord Goku has now taken over his rule. The king doesn't contend this any further. In that case, he would very much like to see them. Humbly offering his humility, the king of Sadala kneels before the angel and god, as he beckons what he owes the honor to of their illustrious visit. Though Goku doesn't want any of this kind of treatment, he doesn't have to go this far with his manners. He's just a Saiyan like any of them, and he's only come to visit. Vados has to roll her eyes that it's quite obvious his divine etiquette courses that he sat through have gone nowhere. And dumbfounded, this isn't the response the king was expecting. He's sorry? In any case, it's a pleasure. His name is Krista. Goku utters it's nice to meet him, offering his own name in return. When he realizes something. This guy, has Vegeta's face. But Vegeta, isn't that the guy Kappa told him about from the 7th universe? And it is. In fact, Mr. Goku here is Mr. Vegeta's greatest rival. So a Saiyan from another universe became the god of destruction of this universe. What a curious thing. Now that Goku thinks about it, it is kinda weird. With open arms, King Krista invites Lord, or rather Mr. Goku, to join them in a feast. He would love to know more about the Saiyans of Universe 7. Kappa told him a few things, but he's willing to bet that he has a lot more to inform him of. Though unfortunately, he can't. He's, kind of under punishment at the moment. But a god being punished? How? Vados chimes that during his training, Lord Goku ended up disobeying some of her advice and was very reckless. Because of this, his power went haywire and he destroyed a large part of the universe. To fix his mess, she had to use her ability to turn back time. It was a lot of work. After that, she gave him the punishment of going 1 month without eating. As he is a deity and does not need to eat, he'll certainly not die. But his mortal and mental conditioning still makes him hungry, so it's the perfect discipline. Setting aside the humor of the situation, the king really only hears that this Saiyan, this god, destroyed a large part of the universe by a simple lack of control? Changing his tone, he immediately requests Mr. Goku to fight him. With Frieza in possession of the first of the primordial beasts, will everything remain as smooth for him in collecting the other 4? And now that Goku has finally met the fabled king of Sadala, just how well will the man live up to the legend?